these other sort of opportunities for participation come in, one of which we're terming a working group. So the way that a working group is different from the IOAC, or that broader advisory committee, is that we're thinking of this as something that's much more focused on a specific topic. So whether it be rehabilitation, or finfish aquaculture, or something else. Whereas that advisory committee is sort of taking the overarching look at everything and sort of providing input on the plan as a whole and setting overarching objectives, helping to develop work plans for that 2-year planning period. A working group is going to take on some specific topic, or it could be taking on issues in a specific area. So, I mean, Haida Gwaii is an example of an area. Northern Vancouver Island could be another area that has issues that are specific to it. So they would go into that issue or that area in more detail. So that's sort of the distinction here, is that there's a bit more focus with these working groups. And they may do a number of different things. They may be sort of bringing information together on that topic, perhaps making some recommendations about how to address certain issues on that topic. The membership, I think, will vary from working group to working group, depending on the issue. So, but again, we envision that it would be a mix of different kinds of interest groups, whether they be commercial users, or whether they be First Nations or local governments, or other kinds of government agencies, or perhaps academics, people from universities with expertise in a specific topic. It could be any of those things, or all of them. We also recognize that for some of these issues, which may be part of a management plan, there are already places where people are having discussions about some of those things. So some of you are perhaps familiar with or participate on things like the Commercial Fisheries Advisory Board. So we recognize that those are also places for us to get feedback to what we want to do on an integrated management plan. So if you envision that we're starting to think about what we want to do on a specific part of an integrated management plan for PNCIMA, and we recognize that actually there are some things here that relate to commercial fisheries, or that relate to recreational fisheries, or some other specific user group, we may want to take our thinking and bring it out to those advisory processes, those other kinds of processes that are in place, and say, here's what we're thinking, what are your comments on this, how would you like to review this, and provide feedback back into the PNCIMA planning process. So it's a way of sort of enhancing our feedback and ensuring that we're moving forward with this in a way that's informed by people who are very familiar with some of these topics. So again, recognizing that some of these are specific to an activity, and other advisory processes may be specific to a place. So Waihanas is a good example. Some of you will be familiar with that. Another kind of opportunity for participation will be things like meetings or workshops. So again, just to sort of figure out how this is different from a working group or from the advisory committee. Something like the PNCIMA Forum, which some of you may have attended. These are intended to be sort of larger events where any member of the public can come. It's an opportunity to get a bit of an update around what is the PNCIMA initiative doing these days, and to provide some feedback in terms of where you want to see it go from there, or ask questions about its progress to date. A workshop is another kind of opportunity, and again, similar to the idea of a working group, typically a workshop is a place where you're focusing on something very specific, and you may spend 1 or 2 or 3 days together, where you are perhaps learning about a topic that could inform your work in the working group, or you may be reviewing some specific product that has been developed, like say a report. So Bruce mentioned the Socioeconomic and Cultural Overview and Assessment Report, and he also mentioned that we held a workshop on that. So that's an example of where something's being developed, and we want to go out into a workshop setting where we could have people provide feedback to that. And obviously in this day and age, everybody is doing lots of things online through the web. So we're also thinking about ways to use the web as an opportunity for people to provide input to this, for people to sort of get updates. And this is another of the questions that we're going to ask you, is how do we make use of the web in a way that's effective without relying on it too much, recognizing that there's a value in meeting face-to-face and having these kinds of discussions as well. So we see the website as being an opportunity to do a number of different things. That could include things like sending out surveys to get people's input more broadly than we might be able to if we just went to a meeting and had sort of 30 people in a room and another 30 people out there who can't make it tonight. A survey or a poll that's available through the website might give people the opportunity to respond when they have the time available, things like that. We do have a website, it's listed at the bottom there, so we're already sort of using the website to communicate out what we're doing, and we're looking to build on that and finding other ways to make that more effective. So just in terms of our next steps, where are we going after we finish this meeting? What's going to happen, and when are you going to hear from us next? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take what we hear out of these meetings, and this is meeting number 1. We have another 8, something like this, in different communities throughout the North and Central Coast. We're going to take all that feedback and revise the engagement strategy based on what we've heard. And then we're going to start implementing it. And one of the really key first things we want to do in implementing it is convening that Integrated Oceans Advisory Committee, and we want to do that by June. Another really key point here is that as much as we're going to implement this engagement strategy, we also know that we might not get it right from the start. So if we find 6 months from now that some things aren't working in terms of how we want to encourage participation, well, then we'll go back and sort of figure out what do we need to do to try and adjust some of those things. And as I think we've mentioned a few times now, the intention is that we want to try and get to a point where we have a plan drafted 2 years from the time that we convene that advisory committee. So once that advisory committee starts up, that's what we're thinking of as sort of the beginning point for the actual planning process. So how can you provide feedback to our engagement strategy that's on the tables with you? You can tell us what you think today. If you have further thoughts, you can send those to that web address, or you can mail them. You can write them down. If you're allergic to computers, you can send them in the mail. And I think that we're looking for comments and your review by April 16th. So that gives you another sort of almost 3 weeks. And then we'll go through that process of revising the strategy and... oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, and there's nothing on the next slide anyway, so we can just leave it like that.
How about your phone number?
Yeah, I can give you my phone number.
666.
666. You know how it starts. 604-666-8437. Paul.
First question, is who's losing the paper rolls?
Yeah, good question. Well, everybody know I'm going to catch, right?
It all sounds, when you know over the years that, just saying the fact that over the years that I've been in the fishing industry, is that we all, the fisheries that put up some work-life plans, including the fishermen and all the user groups in the fishing industry, put something together, fund it, tell us as though it's getting too strong or whatever, pull the plug on it. So with this PNCIMA here now, Lindsay asked a question here earlier about who's in the on these committees or whatever. Well, when you look at the area PNCIMA covers, you got all these first stations along the coast, including Hyderabad,